All right, well, good morning, everybody. We are going to be finishing up our last and final installment, our third week of this Everyday Sin series that we've been working through. And we've been talking about the title of it being Held Captive, I'm Changing My Mind. And the theme verse of that was 2 Corinthians 7:1. Since we have these promises, beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from every defilement of body and spirit, bringing holiness to completion in the fear of the Lord. And this idea and concept that we can change our mind. We've been looking at two specific instances, everyday sins that some of us, if not all of us, struggle with. One is a lack of vision, which we're going to finish up talking about that. And the other one was thinking of words, specific cuss words or different things in our minds, not necessarily speaking them, but having them kind of bouncing around and what damage that could do to ourselves and others around us. The first week I talked about just a couple different ways that we can use the mind. We learned about the mind a little bit. We talked about just this thought of what are you thinking about? What are some things that are going through your mind that are either passive or things that are volitional, things that you want to go to your mind. We talked about what the mind is, the processing ability about it. And then we talked about this idea of taking every thought captive and running it through the filter, the screen of Philippians. Finally, brethren, whatever things are pure, just, noble, admirable, above report, if there be anything virtuous or anything worthy of praise, think on these things. And so this idea of setting our minds on good things. There is only two different ways that you can think about this world. You can think about it in a optimistic or pessimistic way. You can use words that are negative, or you can use words that are positive. And, we've all felt or seen somebody come in the room that inadvertently, without even saying anything, you know their emotion, don't you? You know how they're thinking, how they're feeling, and they want you to feel the same way that they do, right? If they're ticked off about something, well, they want you to feel that. If they're frustrated, well, they want you to feel that. And we've all seen people like that. These words, these thoughts carry, and I don't want to kind of get wacky, but they carry an energy about them, don't they? When we use words that build up and encourage people and develop people and raise their standards, what does that do for them? Well, that gives them the catalyst and the ability to do something great, to think good about themselves or about others, or to think, speak to them the way the Lord speaks to them or thinks of them. The same thing goes with our negative words. What does negativity do? Well, it tears down individuals. It kills them. It suppresses them. And we do that, why? Well, we want to be built up. So a lot of times, in order to be built up, we got to stand on somebody else. And that's just not the best thing to do. Just a couple thoughts on the battlefield of our mind. Like I talked about, Satan attacks us through our senses. He attacks us through our God-given desires. And he attacks us through circumstances in our lives. And then we talked about the three enemies at the gate. We have the world, we have the flesh, and we have the devil or Satan. And then we talked about the three different gates that we have. We've got our eyes, we've got our mind, and we've got our ears. And these three avenues are what our adversary uses to bombard us with all sorts of different things. And we'll think about a couple more of them today as we wrap up this. And then we talked about this idea of using inappropriate words mentally and what that can do. I'm not going to really go into a whole lot of that because I think we covered it really well. And how do we overcome that habit? What do we have to do to take these thoughts, hold them captive, run them through the screen of Philippians, and overcome that? Well, the first thing is we need to replace profanity with positive words. We need to be mindful of triggers that lead us to thinking of these things. We need to ask others for accountability. And then we need to focus on filling the mind with uplifting thoughts, Philippians 4:8. This this thing that we have in our mind is not a static thing. It's not like you can have an empty room with nothing in it. It has to be filled with something. And so if you are the steward of your mind, it is your prerogative to fill your mind with beneficial things because it responds in abundance. The things that you fill up from a negative standpoint will abound. It will not be a one-to-one, one seed in, one seed out. If you plant an apple, how many apples do you get from the tree, assuming that it produces fruit? Hundreds, right, from one seed. The same is true when it comes to our mind. And so everything is multiplied, whether it be positive or whether it be negative. And we want to use that to the best of our ability, obviously from a negative or a positive standpoint, to benefit the hearers and be a blessing to others. And so let's spend the rest of our time here on vision. And we just barely touched the surface on it the last time I spoke. Just a couple quotes as we get back into this. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss, but that it is too low and we reach it. And how many people do you see today that are not striving? They're just subsisting in life. They're just at the very bottom level. They're making it. You know, you've heard these quotes. Well, how you doing? Well, I'm just above ground. Well, that's as good as you've gotten. There's no, there's nothing. There's a guy at work, and it's Monday number 5. He's got 5 Mondays in the week. I don't know what Saturday and Sunday are, but it's just one Monday after the next. That being a negative thing. And so, how do you view the future? How do you view the things that you're looking at? You know, you may have a reality and I have a reality and they're totally different and we're looking at the same exact thing. You may think of where we're at in this country, the state of this country, the state of the world, and you may be building a bunker, right? Because you think nuclear war is right around the corner. That same person, as a believer, again, we're talking about, is resting in the promises of God. And is he concerned about what may be just around over the horizon? Of course he is. But does it paralyze him to the point that he can't even think, he can't focus, there's no vision, he can't raise his family or spouse or a husband or wife or things like that in moving forward? No, it doesn't faze him one bit. Why? Because of his vision of where he's looking and where he's going. The greatest tragedy in life is not death. It is trying to live life without a purpose. Trying being the main word there. You know, you can try all you want, but either you will or you won't. There is no try, right? Either you make it or you don't. Try never can. You know, well, I'm just going to try, but you always have a way out. Well, when it comes to vision, are you trying to have a vision or are you focusing on a vision? Are you focusing on the future? And what does the Bible say at Hosea 4:6? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. John 8:32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Maybe the problem is not vision and your ability to see things. Maybe it's your ignorance towards the future. Maybe it's your ignorance towards the things, and I'm not saying you like somebody specific in this room, but maybe me as well. We have the truth. We have the Word of God. We have everything at our disposal. It says that He'll never leave us nor forsake us, but we feel at times that He's left us. Well, is that truth or is that falsehood? Well, that would be falsehood because He has never left us. It says that. So if your emotions have led you to that, you have allowed these thoughts, again, thinking about this, taking our thoughts captive, to take you captive in that area, you need to check that. You need to check that at the door, at one of the 3 gates, and see, is this something that I need to dwell on, or is this something that I need to move out of my life and move into the truths of what God's Word has said? So we want to look at 5 areas. I want to just kind of prime the well, if you will, give you 5 little areas of thinking as you look at developing a vision, developing a look into the future. I use the analogy, well, not an analogy, it happened, but the GPS on the foggy road, right? And just seeing just around the corner, cutting through the fog and being able to see what the road has in store for you. This is something that you can do in your life. And if you look at visionaries, You look at people who are able to kind of work out past the today and the tomorrow and to look out in the future, a trajectory of kind of where the world's going and things like that. This is kind of what they are thinking about and using when they think along those same lines. And us as people who have a family or a spouse, like I said, or even single, how do you want your life to look a couple years down the road? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to be married? Do you want to do something great? Is there something in your life? And we're going to just think for just a second about purpose versus vision. These two things that are synonymous, but they're not the same necessarily. One precedes the other. You know, you're going to be different next year than you are today. And it's not by choice necessarily. It's because the world is moving forward. Time does not stand still. And so how do you want that to look? When I see you next year, what should I be looking for? Will you be better or worse? You're not going to be the same. And so we need to be cognizant of that. And it is, you know, from one aspect, it's scary, but at the other aspect, it's liberating, right? Because if you're not satisfied with where you're at today, you can be someone or something different tomorrow. And that is such a wonderful thing. And the main catalyst of that is your mind. You know, when you think about this idea of purpose versus vision, what comes first? I would say purpose comes first. You know, if you don't have something that you're fighting for, something that is weighing heavy on your heart, how are you going to have a vision or a path to get there? You know, purpose is the catalyst, and vision is how to get there and what it looks like. You know, if you look at all the visionaries, whether it was the Mother Teresa's or the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, these are the big men, right? Or women. But there's also, you know, the Mandelas and the Helen Kellers and all of these things, all the way down to the moms and dads. They had a purpose that was bigger than themselves, right? They had something that was weighing on them so heavily, they didn't know how to get there necessarily, but it was the catalyst that drove them to look into the future to make it happen, right? Whether it be, I was reading a whole bunch of different ideas of people who started doing like food drives, you know, for Thanksgiving. It was like $3.25, you know, and they went from feeding one family for Thanksgiving to now this organization feeds like 25 million people and multiple continents. And, you know, do you think that started at that level with that type of vision? Well, of course not. It was one guy going to the store, picking up, you know, $60 worth of food, which is what all he could pay for with his paycheck, and blessing one person. And it has changed into this vision now of he wants to reach 1 billion people. Well, you think with the trajectory that he has, there's a pretty good chance he's going to do that? Absolutely. Because his vision is there, right? He sees it. He can literally, no pun intended, taste it. That's how real it is to him. And it started with a purpose. It started with a seed, just a small little seed. And so that's the catalyst. And I would ask you, as we kind of look into some of these questions, do you have something that is weighing heavy on your heart? Maybe for some, it is adoption. Maybe you want to adopt. Well, do you know how to adopt? Well, no, I've never thought of adoption at all, but I want to adopt. Well, there's the purpose. Maybe for another, it's, well, I want to get married and I want to be on the mission field. Maybe it's, I want to have, a family that honors the Lord. Well, you got to work back, right? The purpose is there. Well, what's the vision to getting there? Well, in order to have a family, you have to be married first, right? And so I would say you want to be the person you're looking for is looking for, to coin a title of a book. Be that individual, right? Which means you got to work on yourself. You got to work on these areas that are attractive to you and somebody else, so they'll be attracted in that same way, right? So that's the purpose, and then you work forward into the vision, and the vision is going out and seeing that family, seeing that type of health that you may desire, seeing that purpose and work, that God-given just thing that God has placed on your heart, and you don't know exactly how to do it, but you know why you need to do it and the reasons to go down that road. Is it going to be easy? Well, of course not. Nothing worthwhile was easy. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it, right? This is the stretching of the rubber band. This is where the rubber meeting the road. This is where the difficulty comes and the growth happens. How many people are growing when times are easy? Nobody. There's no need to grow, right? The growth happens during the difficult times. So here's some questions that we want to ask ourselves as we're looking at this vision. The number one question that I would ask is, who am I? Some of you think you have the answer, but honestly, it's not an easy question. This question is not asking you what you do for a vocation. Oh, well, I'm a pipe fitter. Oh, I'm a plumber. Oh, I move heavy equipment. Oh, I do HVAC. Oh, I clean houses. No, that's what you do. That is not who you are, right? That is your vocation. It's focusing on who you are as an individual, right? We cater and gravitate towards it's pain and pleasure. Those are the two principles in life that drive human beings. And so we do things inadvertently because of I'm a dopamine fan, the hit that it gives us, right? The pleasure that it gives us, the satisfaction of cleaning a house and all that entails, which I know very little about, but I know there's a few that know a lot more than I know about that, right? And so if we didn't enjoy doing that and the feeling that it gave afterwards, none of us would do it. None of us would go to work, right? None of us would do the things, even to the sense of, I go to work because it pays the bills. There is some level of satisfaction just in that, keeping the lights on. Very low level, but that's what some people are focusing on. How do you identify yourself deep down inside? If I was to ask you, who are you? Who are you really when no one's looking? Who are you? Not even to your spouse. Who are you really? Can you live with yourself? What would you say about yourself? Oh, I am ... So I would ask that question to yourself. Have some self-talk. You are talking to yourself all day long, whether you want to or not. Who are you? The second thing is, where am I from? Until you know where you are from, you cannot know who you are. So what is your source? Well, you are a created being, right? You are created from nothing, the dust of the earth. How do you identify yourself deep inside? Again, this kind of plays into who I am, but look at your family, look at your upbringing, look at how you were raised and developed, the thought processes that were kind of built into you from your parents, the things that they were serious about and passionate about. Well, they, kind of permeate into your line of thinking at some level. We are a open slate when we first come into this world. We are programmed, right, wrong, or indifferent, with good things or damaging things. And we carry these things along through our lives. And at some point, if your past was difficult, if there's areas in your life that you wish that you could rewrite, at some point you have to let those go. You have to clean the slate, right? And you have to build a life for yourself and for your family. You can't hang on the yesterdays. We're going to look at potential versus kinetic energy. Some of that energy is yesterday. It's been done. It's been shown. It's no longer potential. It's not a will be, it's a has been. And so we want to think about some of the things, again, looking in the future, because we are moving forward of what we want to conquer later versus what was done the day before. So we got, who am I? Where am I from? And thirdly is, why am I here? Some never really ask this question because they're afraid of not finding the answer. We know when a man and a woman are intimate, a man releases 600 million, I'm going to use the word seeds, and I think we know where that's going, that rush towards the egg and only one makes it. 600 million swimmers, and one makes it. 1 in 600 million, that's the chance of you being here this morning. Not by accident, right? It's not a happenstance. Why did you beat out the other 599,999,999? Was there a reason that God wanted you here? Of course there was. Nothing is created by accident, right? The Creator doesn't accidentally make someone that's in His image and likeness. You realize that, right? You are, it says, fearfully and wonderfully made. Do you feel that way? Or has the world washed you down so hard with all this friction, taken away your worth, taken away everything, your God-given potential, and all of the excitement and and passion about life that we had as kids, to where it's like, well, get up, go to a job, 8 to 5, come back, live for the weekend, all this other stuff. And pretty soon you get to retirement and you're happy to live the next 15 years of not doing anything. Do you think that is the way God intended your life to be? Or is that just a get along to go along mindset? Why are you here? Ask yourself that question. And if you're here for a purpose. If you're here for a reason. And that reason, as a believer, is to glorify God the Father. That's the reason you're here. The reason that you have another breath is because you still have something to do on this earth. So why you? If you're trying to figure out why you're here, why would God use little old me? You ever thought that? You look at everything around, you look at all the big players in this world, and you think, well, I'm just a little mom here, just raising a little family, or, oh, I'm just a dad that just goes to work and, turns wrenches all day long. Why would God want to use me? Why would I have something so valuable that other human beings need? Couldn't he have just used someone else that has intellect and has wisdom and has knowledge? Well, that could be you. All of those things are free. You realize that, right? You don't have to go to MIT to achieve that. He says that he gives those things in abundance to those who ask. You didn't just come here to make a living, to pay bills, to get a mortgage, buy a few cars, have some kids, retire, and finally die. You didn't come to do all that. You came to make a difference, whether you know that or not. You're going to make a difference if you're close to me in my life. You're going to make a difference if you have children in their lives. You're going to make a difference in your parents' lives, for the good or for the bad. Those are the only two options you have. You came to make a difference, and you have something, dare I say, that we need. There's something that you have to offer, not just us, but the world at large. You came because you have something the world needs. You're not a mistake. So why are you here? Again, this is where this self-talk can wreak havoc in your life. Because if you don't truly believe that you have something to offer, there's no hope or a future. How many times have you seen people that give up on life? They believe the lie that there's no more need for them. I watched it's been a long time, and I wouldn't recommend you watch it, but it's a documentary on the jumpers of the Golden Gate Bridge. There's been 300 of them. And now, actually, I don't think you can jump anymore. There's a huge net up underneath. And there was people that would stand there on guard 24 hours a day and would talk these people off of the precipice. And there's two guys who actually jumped and survived. And they are obviously radically changed. And they'll tell you, and they've said, that they are so thankful that they didn't believe the lie, that God didn't allow their death to happen. And so it's changed them for the better. But they believed for a split second that they were not needed. And that was a lie. Because if they still have breath, they are here for a reason. There is a purpose still for them. So why you? So what can I do? And what's my true ability? Do you know? Have you really stress tested yourself? When you go into the gym and you work a muscle, you load it up, right? You put weight on it, and you actually fatigue the muscle. You break it down first before you rebuild it back up. You cannot work out and get strong by not having resistance. It's a non sequitur. It doesn't make sense and it doesn't work. Your life is the same exact way. If you are looking for the easy way out, you are never going to develop as a human being. Not only will your mind not develop, but your body won't follow. So what can you do? Well, the only way that you can find out what you do is to test yourself. Is to look deep inside and find out what's there. What is my purpose? What's something that is gnawing at me that I have to do something about? Maybe it's invent something. Maybe it's you're dying to have a family because you want to be a good parent. Maybe it's I want to have a testimony for the lost. Maybe it's you want to do prison ministry. I don't know what it is. It could be a million different things, but you know what it is. if you dig deep enough. Something that, keeps you up at night. Something that maybe your friends, they don't understand, but you do. So what is that? Many are living below their true potential. If I have a vehicle and it's a V8, that vehicle has a lot of potential energy. But if I'm only running it on one cylinder, that is not its true potential. That's not its true ability, right? It has 7 more cylinders, 7 more ways to produce energy, which is what the car was created for, and I've just pulled the spark plugs on all 7 of them, and I'm running on one. Is that not frustrating as the creator of that vehicle to see it running in that way? It would be extremely frustrating to me. I'm not saying necessarily that the Creator is frustrated in you, but He knows what you're capable of. He made you. He knows the intricate wiring. He knows the headwinds that you're up against. He knows what you can or can't do. He knows what you've said no to in the past. In fact, I'll say He's put that purpose on you. He's placed that on your heart. What are you going to do about it? You live in the freest country in all the world. You live in the 21st century. There is more free things at your disposal nowadays, thinking about YouTube University. You can get a degree in anything you want. You don't have to pay for any of it. It just takes desire. It takes discipline, determination. It takes a why, really. Why would I want to go through this? Why would I want to make a vision that broad? Well, again, what's your purpose? What's the reason for doing it? You don't know what you're capable of. We've accepted other people's opinions of what we can or can't do. My kids will ask me, "Hey, Dad, you think I can do that?" Of course you can, boy. Of course you can do it, right? If you want to, you can. But if I were to tell him, "No, you can never do that," you think he's going to try? More than likely not. Right? The ceiling of his expectations is my words. It's my expectations of him. Well, what are God's expectations of you? He's given you everything it says that pertains to life and godliness. It's not like you need anything else to fulfill the purpose that He's placed on you. We have allowed people, culture, and society to tell us what we can and can't do. Some of us need to be delivered from the opinions of other people. What can you do is the question. And only you are the one that can rightfully answer that. Everyone outside is looking at potential energy. So lastly, where am I going? Where am I going in my life? I'm not asking about your eternal destiny, heaven or hell. I'm asking where you're going with your life. Where is the journey taking you the next 10, 15, 20 years? There's something we need and only you have it. You're carrying it. God wants you to know that you're not just here as a passing fantasy and to live just for the here and now. You came to this planet and you're still kicking because there is something you still need to do here. You're not finished with your task or your journey. Just like driving a vehicle, do you drive by looking in your lap? Do you drive in the rearview mirror, thinking about your past accomplishments? You drive by looking ahead and by seeing what lies just in front of you. Your goal as a believer is to die empty, to rob the grave of any riches and to leave nothing dormant and wonder, what if? There's not a quote, but a statement talking about the richest place. And I'll cut the thought short, but it's the graveyard. How many undone, lost inventions, books, ideas, music labels, lifestyles are there that never saw the light of day? They had all of this potential energy. They lived a hopefully full life, and they died never tapping their God-given potential. God brought them into this world. He sustained them in this world. He gave them passion and ambition and drive, all of these things, and they died with the very thing that they should have given to everyone else. Sad. The only thing the cemetery should get is an empty shell. On the cross, right before Christ died, he said, what? It is finished. He died empty. He came to earth for a purpose, and he was a leader with vision along the way, and he died fulfilling the purpose of his coming. He knew exactly why he was on the earth for 33 years. He knew exactly every single day what his purpose was, and he did everything that pleased the Father along the way. Now, am I saying that you can walk in his footsteps? Absolutely not. But can you take a little of that, some of that? Could you take some of the purpose that he has placed in you, and to the best of your ability, develop it out and show the world what potential you have and what opportunities are placed in front of you? Of course you can. Paul said, I have finished my course, my race, and I have kept the faith. Paul knew exactly why he was here. The first half of his life, he said he did it in ignorance. But once the Lord Jesus got a hold of him, all of that potential energy that was used for the wrong reasons was directed towards his family, his children, believers. And he went on to do an amazing work as an apostle. You know, God can use people, but he can't use the unusable. You have to be willing to make the journey, to think the thoughts, to put in the vision, to go through the tough stuff, to fight the fight, to run the race. You shouldn't die because of your age or sickness, but because you have nothing left to do or give. So many people, their lights are turned out in their life way too early, with so much potential. And what is potential anyways? Well, here's a couple words. It's dormant ability. It's untapped power. It's hidden strength. It's reserved energy. It's unused success. And it's unleashed talent. And who's the steward of all of that? Can you blame me for that? Well, if you would have... No, I'm not responsible for any of that. I got my own issues. Can you blame your spouse? No, they got their own as well. Can you blame your kids taking all your time away? No, you still got the 168 hours. Everybody else has. Can you blame God? No, you're still breathing. He's given you more. It's yourself. You're responsible. You're responsible for the things that God has given you. You have to give an account for your own life. Are you going to take that potential energy and turn it to kinetic energy? Potential is just this, reserved, unused. Kinetic is for all of us to see. It's usable energy, right? It is shown on display. Think about a ceiling fan when the switch is on. Well, you know there's power there because you can see it spinning. Your life is the same exact way. So much dormant energy in this world. And I think the reason why is because no one has any vision or reason to put it to use. Doesn't have anything pushing them. Doesn't have anything propelling them. You know, your dreams should push you and pull you in the direction that the vision is taking you. I'm not expecting my wife to push me to my purpose. I can drive myself. I can be hard on myself. Are you that way as well in your mind? Again, thinking of the taking your thoughts captive, keeping a clean slate up there, using all of these resources. Potential is all you can do but haven't done yet. So think seriously. If you're newly married, plan out and look into the future and see what it looks like. What type of job career do you want? How about family passions? What can you offer and do? What is God putting you to be multiplied and used for Him? And once you understand what it looks like, work backward to see that through to its maturity. Again, purpose precedes vision. Sit down with your spouse. You know, the two are better than one, so he's brought you both together. What are we supposed to do together? I can think of a lot of things that you would do together, but I mean, what is bigger than that God has put in front of you two, that you could do at such a more infinitely greater way than just one individual? And use that on the other side. Not that single is negative. How about just you as an individual, where you don't have the second person, and you don't have to worry about the purpose and drive and vision, and it's just you, and you're in the driver's seat? What can you do single-handedly for the Lord? You know, He's given us all individual purposes and reasons to do things. So it's not like you're lacking in any way if you don't have a spouse. What can you do with what He's given you today? How can you paint the future for tomorrow by looking into the future and using that as a propellant to move in that direction? Just a couple verses here as we wrap up thinking about this. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the springs of life." Proverbs 4:24 and 25 and 26 and 27. "Put away from you crooked speech, and put devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look directly forward, and your gaze be straight before you." This is thinking of that vision. Quit looking around. Quit looking at what your neighbors have and what they're capable of. Well, if I only made 6 figures, then I could do more. Oh, if I only had time like this guy has over here, well, I could do more. Look ahead. Look at your own vision. Look at your own path that God has you on. And let your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, Proverbs 4:26. Then all your ways will be sure. You ever sat and thought about what you're doing? It sounds ridiculous, but I mean, we're human beings, right? And we have the ability to think about things and then make a decision, change course, change trajectory, things like that. But so often we just keep doing what we've always done and keep getting what we've always gotten. We wake up 20 years later wondering what has happened. Well, you fell asleep at the wheel for 20 years. That's what happened. You took the purpose and forgot about it and lost the vision. And now the boat's somewhere else. Ponder the path of whose feet? Your neighbors? No, your feet, where you're going. Proverbs 4:27, "Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil." Psalm 119, 105, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to" whose path? My path. In order to have true vision, you have to be in the Word. You have to understand the truth. You have to understand that God's ways are higher than your ways. What He may be wanting you to do is someplace that you can't even see today. You can't even fathom it. Psalm 37:4, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Again, this is another avenue that goes into the mind. Heart, eyes, and ears. The desires of your heart. Those desires are going to permeate into the mind. It's a pathway there. So what are they? Are they Philippians level? I hope they are. Psalm 37:5, "Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him." And the ESV says, "And He will act." I love that. He will act. Commit your way to the Lord. Your way. You got to know where you're going first. Trust in the Lord, knowing that His ways are higher than your ways, and He has a plan for you, has a work He wants to complete in you, and He'll act to bring that about. Ephesians 2:10, "For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." Do you see those? Truly, do you see them? The good works God has prepared beforehand? He has something for you. There's something for you to do. Well, you need to walk in them. Look forward. Look for them. Look for the things that will be in this life that God has prepared for you to walk in. things for you to do. You have a job here, you know. And it's not just to exist. It's to press towards the mark, to look forward and not to the right or to the left, to see and understand the work that God has prepared for you. It's been prepared for every believer beforehand and can only be taken hold of after conversion. Look out in the future, find it, and walk in it. And the last verse that I have, just to wrap this all up, is Matthew 25:21. His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." You know, there's going to come a time when you're going to have to give an account. You're going to have to give an account not for what you didn't have, what you had, and the time allotted for you. You are going to have to answer to the creator of the universe of what you did with the 85 years that he gave you here on this earth. What you did with the myriad of opportunities that you had. I think you're going to be able to see all the crossroads and opportunities that you could have had. You're going to be able to fully understand the potential power that you had at your disposal. And you're going to have to give an account for to the creator of what was possible, not necessarily probable, but what you did with what he gave you. Use this mind. Use everything that we've talked about. Use this weighing the thoughts, taking captive the thoughts, running everything through, whether it's pure and admirable and worthy of praise, and meditate on those things. Set your mind on things above. We talked about that. All of these different things. Find your purpose. Find your vision. Find the things that you're shooting towards. Change the trajectory a little bit if you're off course. Use the catalyst that God has given you, all this potential energy, and turn it into kinetic energy that can benefit all of us. We're here for a purpose. We're here for a reason. And ultimately, that reason is to bring glory to our Creator of what He could do in people such as us.